So how to launch your project-based learning vision without burning out, without losing your staff. You can burn out in this process. If you launch your vision, but it takes you 80 hours a week, then you're going to burn out, because if it's 80 hours a week to start it, it's going to be 80 hours a week to sustain it. It's going to be 80 hours a week to keep it going. So you have to have a process and a framework that builds momentum early so that you as a leader don't burn out. It's a big deal. And you also don't want to lose your staff. If you're on a vision and you are out by yourself, you're just going for a walk, right? And a better metaphor, a harsher metaphor, is that when the general gets too far ahead of the troops, he starts to look like the enemy. You don't want to be that either. So you don't want to have top-down mandates that you're bringing. You don't want to lose your staff. You want them to come with you. You want a grassroots movement. Or maybe you're in the wrong spot. But if you've ever wanted to launch a greater vision for your school, but you haven't pulled the trigger yet, it's important that you know right off the bat that it's not your fault, right? I talk to leaders about this all the time. They've got a mission, they've got a vision, they've got this idea that school could look different, but they haven't found the right time. Well, we're going to talk about that. We're going to give you a process that builds momentum so that it is the right time now. But if you've ever hesitated, it's not your fault. It's appropriate. It means that you're a good leader. It means that you're concerned about your people, and you don't want to just have a top-down mandate where people have to listen to you or get out. So it's actually a good thing that you've hesitated in the past. If you've been concerned in the past about launching your vision and that you might alienate your staff, we're going to put those fears to rest. We're going to show you how to create a grassroots movement. And yes, you can actually purposely design and create a grassroots movement. It doesn't have to just happen. In fact, I would claim that they never just happen, right? They're intentionally created. If you've ever thought, and you probably have, my staff is just too busy for something new, then stay tuned. Stay tuned all the way to the end, because we've got the processes, the secrets, the resources, and we're going to give them all to you. This is what I counsel leaders with. This is what Magnify Learning walks schools through on a daily, yearly basis. So I'm here to explain this proven process of how you can implement your PBL vision, a movement, without burning out yourself and without alienating your staff. Here's the goal. Here's who I want to help. I want to help people who believe education can look different, and people who are ready to launch their vision. If you don't fall into one of those two categories, if you think education's fine and you can just keep moving along, no worries, then this is not the webinar for you, right? You just need to tune off or forward this on to somebody who you know could use it well. But as leaders, we've seen that there's something that needs to change. Something is just a little off. I call it the dissonance. It's just a little bit off, and we want to make a plan to change that. And that's why we're in leadership. But you have to do it without burning out, without losing your staff. If you can achieve your vision with just you and you don't need your staff, then your vision isn't big enough, right? But if you're here, it's probably because you have a big vision and you want to know how to launch it. I'm just letting you know you're in the right spot. The only way for you to launch your vision effectively is to create a grassroots movement where your teachers already have buy-in to your vision. It's the only way to do it without burning out, without losing your staff. I would say the only way to do that is through our trademark design days process. And I'm going to give you the 3 secrets of that design day process here in just a bit. So we're going to walk through together. But who am I? I'm Ryan Stoyer. I'm the Chief Inspiration Officer at Magnify Learning. I am not a leadership guru, although I do leadership coaching. I don't claim to have all the answers, right? We're practitioners in this work, always getting better, 1% better every day. So I love to equip leaders just like you to lead the way they've always wanted to, whether it's through coaching or design days or through a PBL vision that they can see and can implement. That's what gets me fired up. That's what gets me going each day, is to help you get your vision into your school. Because I've been on the wrong side of a failed vision. When I moved from engineering, I started teaching 8th grade English, and then we started project-based learning. And we had this project-based learning school within a school, amazing results. We had 25% of the kids in a large urban middle school. And with 25% of the kids, we had only 8% of the discipline. We had 2% higher attendance rate, which is a really big deal if you understand that in a large middle school. And in an F school, we would have actually been a B on standardized tests. So kids were coming to school, generally doing what they're supposed to do, and they were learning things. But at the same time, the leadership was not there to sustain the work. So eventually, that really great work that should have spread was not allowed to spread because there was a failed vision. So this is why I get so passionate about it. I know there are teachers, some of your teachers are passionate about this work and want to see it grow, and you want to see it grow, but you need some systems and processes set up in order to do that. So we figured it out. We've got the process, and I want to share it with you today. My story, as I said, I was a very successful but uninspired engineer for a Fortune 50 company, a big company. And it turned out that my two favorite days were when we worked with the United Way. We worked with an after-school program, and we go work with kids. And it's like, man, these are my favorite days. And I enjoyed the technical aspects of engineering. I got to work with people as well. But it was not the same when I was working with kids. It's like, well, maybe I should be doing something different. So I started teaching 8th grade English on the southwest side of Indianapolis and taught traditionally for a while and realized that was not the vehicle that was going to move things. And then found project-based learning, and I saw, like the results I mentioned, I saw things change dramatically very quickly. So fast forward all of that, founded Magnify Learning, bringing project-based learning across the country to school leaders and schools all over the country, making a huge difference by allowing educators to do what they really want to do, allow them to provide opportunities, light bulb moments to their learners that those kids might not have had otherwise. And Design Days has been the evolution of a lot of that work to figure out how do we work this grassroots movement of project-based learning with teachers? How do we also bring in the administrative processes and systems so that it can sustain long periods of time and do great work? And I'm going to tell you about a couple of the schools that we've worked with, but some of them have gone from a D to an A in just 2 years on that standardized test, while doing amazing things in the community, while empowering their learners with employability skills. That's always going to be a part of the process. So how does this apply to you? It works no matter where you are, no matter what school or staff you have, this works. I've seen the process work over and over again with rural, suburban, urban schools, small schools, big schools. We've worked with them all. And when you put in the right systems and processes, it works because you have innovation built into your culture, and you can sustain the work long past any type of consulting work that you might do with a group like us, like Magnify Learning. So we work with you for 3 years, but we have systems that are well beyond that are sustainable, and they're sustaining their own innovation, which is really amazing. And it has come from all different types of schools. So while I don't know your specific school, and you can put it in the chat, but I don't know your specific school, but I do know that this works because I've seen it work with all types of schools. Here's one example. This is an elementary school in Kentucky, and they're a PBL model school for us at Magnify Learning, and they were a D. And in 2 years of working with them, bringing project-based learning, they coupled it with PLCs, which I think is a great idea, and they moved their standardized test score from a D to an A. And while they did that, it was not skill and drill. Like here's the surprise, I'll tell you. It was not skill and drill that got them there. It was engagement of teachers. It wasn't then engagement of learners, of community partners, of parents. Here on the screen, I've got where their Fox 56 channel showed their learners at a fancy restaurant because they were learning about etiquette. It was part of some of the employability skills that they have, right? Like you have learners that probably don't know, which fork to use or, where your glass is supposed to be. And I'm not sure I do, but these kids do, right? And what a leg up when they get into the professional world. Is that an academic standard? No, it's not. It's something different that you had to learn that. Now, was this PBL unit academically based in standards? Yes, it was. Absolutely. The teachers tied their academic standards to this work, and this is their culminating event. When you get into project-based learning in this way, you have newsworthy events. So that's how they end up on the news. But again, not just on the news, their test scores went up as well because kids are learning things, which, by the way, that's supposed to be happening. So here's what we're going to cover today when we talk about the big picture for leaders of what are the systems you need to put in place. Secret number 1 is how to find a leadership team that you need to help launch your vision. You are the leader. You're the visionary leader. Yes, you have things to manage, but we want you to get into the leadership seat more because your job is to have the vision, to bring the vision. All of us want to be a part of something bigger than ourselves, and your teachers are exactly the same as that. That's why we get excited about sports teams. That's why we get excited to volunteer a larger nonprofit maybe. But your teachers want to be a part of something bigger than themselves. So your job is to bring that vision, but to sustain it, you need a leadership team. We don't want you to burn out. The second secret, how do you get your leadership team on the same page? And the third secret is how to sustain your vision once your vision is launched, because we don't want you to, launch that vision and then have it just fade out a year or two from now. We want to sustain and continue. So the first secret, how to find a leadership team that you need to help launch your vision. Do not try to do this on your own. You need a team. So how do you get one? First is, you might be thinking this, because I talk to leaders, some of them think this: if I launch my vision, it doesn't take, I don't get another chance. Now, there's some truth to this, because the research shows that only 11% of principals will teach at the same school for 10 years or more. And so if you come into a school and you wait a year or two to figure out, what's going on, then you want to launch your vision. 3 years, that's 5. If it doesn't work, you try again, you might be out, actually. So there is actually some truth to this one. But you could obviously do it at another school, you get another chance. But if you want to do it at your specific school, we need to do this right. And there's a very specific way to do it. I can't launch my vision until my staff is ready. And this one has some circular logic to it, because your staff's not going to be ready until you launch your vision. So if you're waiting for them, they're waiting for you. They're waiting for the call to something greater than themselves. So they're waiting for you to jump in. My staff won't go with my vision. I'll be out on a walk by myself. And we kind of talked about that. So that is not going to happen when you talk about this process. But let me tell you a quick story. We had some design team come in, and that was the leader's fear, was that they had this great big vision and they didn't want to go on a walk by themselves. And so when we do this, there's a couple different ways to do design days. One, we can come to your school. 2, we can bring you to a model school, which is one of my favorites. Number 3 is our in-person conference. You can come as a team. So they came to the in-person conference. So just bring people. Like, as long as they're trying to move in the right direction, I don't care what they know. But when you bring them in and you start to build a culture, now you're not walking by yourself. Now you have people that are co-creating your vision. So the leader still had the vision, but other people got to speak into it. And that's where we kind of take this quarter twist, and that way you're not walking by yourself. We can really guarantee you don't end up walking by yourself, which is pretty awesome. So here's what you're looking for. You're looking for teacher leaders who are already doing something different. If you've got, notice it's not by veteran versus new teacher. It's if they've been teaching for 25 years, but they've taught the same year 25 times, that's not the right person, right? That is not the right person. And just because they're brand new doesn't mean they're good yet, right? So you're looking for somebody who knows what's going on, but is also trying to do something different. Now, maybe it is an innovator that's tried too many different things. Well, you can bring them into this leadership team, and you can start to give them some bumpers, like in bowling, you give them some bumpers so they're going to stay in between there, because you create some norms and some outcomes for them. So it might be that person, but you're really looking for those teacher leaders. You know who they are. They're trying to do something different. You've probably got a couple on your staff already. You want to bring them into the leadership team. Teachers who have influence within your staff. You know that you have some outspoken leaders. They're teacher leaders. You go to them to hear what people are saying. You go to them, and they're going to leak the information everywhere anyway. So you just go to them first. You want to find somebody who's obviously in a positive light. Sometimes this is not the most positive person, but you really want somebody who's positive but has influence. People will listen to that person. And you want to have your APs and coaches. If you have instructional coaches, literacy coaches, you want them on board too. We'd suggest that you put them on your leadership team as well, because they're going to be thinking at a high level with you and implementing a lot of these things. Here's some more on this elementary school in Kentucky. So they've got a really interesting setup. So they have a principal who's obviously over the building, and she's looking at the whole scope of their vision. Her assistant principal actually is leading the PBL portion of this. And you can see on the screen here that they've had several different podcasts with me to showcase the work that their teachers are doing. So they're doing PBL units as a grade level in elementary school. So you can see they have a full grade level PBL, and then they brought in the elective class as well. And they've done trainings. They did a Jumpstart Advanced. They're getting ready to do their certification so that their teachers are learning all at the same time. So they've got these big groups of teachers learning together, and they've got an awesome ecosystem. But they have a leadership team that's been through design days. So the leadership team is on the same team. It's got coaches, it's got assistant principals, the principals on there, and they've got some key teacher leaders that are leading this work, that are thinking in a way that's not so much in the weeds, right? They're also thinking about how do we get people involved? where the bright spots at and what grade levels and those types of things. So you really need a leadership team that is guiding this work, and that's where the success comes from. Now, with secret number one, where you're building your leadership team, you might also be thinking, like, I don't understand how design days will work in my school, Ryan. And what if my teachers haven't done PBL before and my leadership team isn't ready? And how does it actually help me launch my vision? And it does all these things in different ways, but essentially you've got these 2 days where you're coming together and you're going to bring your leadership team together in a way that creates culture. So even if you don't have a great culture yet, design days can be a way where you can actually create that culture. So we're going to take you through values, mission, vision, those types of things. And you're going to bring the vision. Again, that's your job as a leader. But now you're going to have these on-roads for your leadership team to say, how do you think this applies? Where do you see this happening in your building already? Right? And as you're doing that, they're starting to speak into this vision, and then it becomes our vision. So at the beginning, it might be your vision. But by the end of these design days, now it's our vision, and that's a huge difference. Now you're starting to build this grassroots movement, and that, my friend, is a big deal. And this works in all types of schools. Because here's the truth, that design days works for any leadership team to build a shared vision, momentum, and a process to build local wins. And the local wins is a huge deal. This is why you want teachers on your leadership team, because they're going to be a part of the vision. And what happens after you guys have this, kind of 2-day retreat with your leadership team? You come back and the teachers say, well, how was it? What's going to happen next? And you have these teachers that are bought into the process. Non-administrators are bought into this process. And they say, well, we're looking at project-based learning. We are going to try this out with our kids. And you're going to get these local wins built up with these teachers that are on your leadership team, because they see the vision and they're all for it. And now it's not you as the leader saying, hey, we need to go do PBL, top-down mandate, let's do this, or else. It's teachers in your building, not teachers from California or Florida or Michigan or Kentucky, teachers in your building saying, this works. It worked with Ryan just the other day. Well, I can never get Ryan to do anything. I know, but he loved the entry event. He loved the end product. He loved talking between partners, and he did work. Okay, maybe we should try this. How do I get trained? Right? And now your vision, you're building that grassroots momentum because you have teachers on your leadership team. So the second secret is, how do you get your leadership team on the same page? We've talked about some of it already, but here's some of the outcomes, some of the structures that you're looking for in design days. This is how we walk you through this in design days that we lead, and you can do this as well. You can start a book study. You can use my book, PBL Simplified. It walks you through the 6 steps of bringing PBL from idea to reality, and it has the teacher side of things. It's got win stories. It's got fail stories. It's also got 2 chapters for you, the leader, on how are you going to implement. Are you going to do are you going to do a full school implementation? Are you going to do it by grade level? Are you going to do a small learning team first? There's a lot of different discussions that come out of that. And your leadership team starts to have opinions, starts to have ideas. And now they're starting to move your vision forward, so you're not burning out and you're not all alone. You see the grassroots movement building? So as you look through, you've got video series that we've got a PBL Simplified video series for teachers and for administrators. It's all free on our YouTube channel. You can just go to Magnify Learning at YouTube and you'll see those playlists, or you can go to pblsimplified.com. So again, you can do all of this. We walk schools through it every day, but you can do this on your own as well. So your team's going to have, when we do this, we go do a school visit. And I would recommend that you do the same thing. You take your leadership team to a place where you know high quality PBL is happening. And if you need to know, just let me know. I'm happy to refer you to someone. We've got model schools across the country, but you probably know somebody in your area that's doing project-based learning or doing things differently. And you're going to go see what they're doing, but you're going to continually have in mind, what does this look like for us? What does this look like for us? And it's not going to just be you saying that, right? Because you're going to bring your leadership team, coaches, administrators, teachers. Really strong ecosystems will actually bring a board member or a parent or community partner. And now everyone's speaking into, yes, we want this for our kids. And how do we do it back at home? And that's what you're continually building out. So then you're going to create a 3-year plan for that. How are you going to actually implement this? And all the while you're doing this, you're getting your leadership team built into your vision because they're starting to speak into it. So what are your outcomes? You want to leave with a 3-year plan that's co-created by your leadership team. You're not bringing it down off the mountain and saying, here it is. You're just bringing the vision. They're going to speak into it. You're going to determine, your local solutions to those common PBL issues. That's where you're going to go. You're going to talk to a principal and the teachers and the kids at that school that you go visit. And you're going to say, well, what about group work? Like, how does that work? And you're going to hear from kids. And they're going to say, well, sometimes it's hard, but group contracts really work, right? And you're going to bring all those things back with you from that school visit. And now you've got teachers that are equipped to go and implement these different PBL pieces. Now, I would say they do need some PBL training. One visit is not enough for them to go implement, but put them into a 3-day training over the summer so that they're ready to implement. But you want teachers on your leadership team implementing, because that's the local wins. All teachers and educators are going to say, well, is this research-based? And then I can just tell you from experience, you can show them the research because it's there, it's deep, it's profound, it has impact. And they say, yeah, but that was somewhere else. Yeah, but they don't have the same this or that that we do. They don't have the same socioeconomic situation. They don't have, this geographic challenge. It's always going to come back to some piece. So if you can show that it works on your soil, in your school, with your learners, it's a game changer for bringing that next group in after your leadership team. So at this point, many principals start to think, well, I'm the leader. I need to talk about the vision, not my teachers. Yes, you are going to talk about the vision all the time until you're sick of it, and then you're going to talk about it some more. But how powerful is it when your teachers are also talking about it? They're also bringing positive connotations to your vision. That's a game changer. I want to wait until my staff has bought into my vision before I launch it. Do you see the fallacy there? I want my team to buy into the vision before I launch it. That's not possible. Now, I do like the idea of sharing your vision with a small group to get some feedback. Again, I say a leadership team. But until you launch it, nobody can follow you, right? Until you say go west, nobody can go west with you, right? So you have to launch it in order to get that buy-in. But you can start the grassroots movement before you launch it. So that's probably the caveat to that one. How can I launch a PBL vision if I've never done PBL before? This is a good one. But there's also no way for you to go back in time and do PBL in the classroom because you're already an administrator. That's where the tours come in. That's where the design process comes in educating you enough about PBL. I don't need you to run a PBL in the classroom with kids. I do need you to know the vocabulary. I do need to know the protocols and the space that you need to give people to learn PBL for their classrooms so they can empower kids. Here's another case study of a district we worked with in Missouri and continue to partner with. They're one of our model schools. And you can see, even if you can't see the numbers on there, you can see, look on the left, the discipline issues. The red is the year before, then we implemented PBL, and then it turned green. So it's well over like 450 discipline issues down to 174. That's an amazing difference. The numbers on the right of your screen, the green, that's your English scores and the math scores. So standardized test scores are going up, but look at discipline. Do you think there's a correlation there? And you can go whichever way you want with it if you want, but like if you have less discipline issues, you have more kids in class and they're learning more, right? Assuming you have best practices happening, right? So that's what we see. We see dramatic changes quickly when you're bringing project-based learning in. And this is all a part of your vision, right? This is a part of your vision. What if your AP wasn't just a dean of discipline and could actually talk about curriculum and best practices, teachers, different aspects of best practice? Wouldn't that be great? Instead, they're often immersed and drowning in discipline. So with secret number 2, some leaders also think that, I'm not a visionary leader. I'm not that charismatic person in front of the room saying, go charge the hill. Or maybe you're in a brick and mortar building and it doesn't feel like you're in an innovative school with glass walls and collaborative spaces. Well, the truth is that Design Days can support any leader who has a passion for reaching and teaching kids. If you think that things can be different and that we can, in fact, reach the learners that are in your seats, then this can work for you. Because great leaders know they can't achieve their vision alone. You need to bring in trusted helpers, and that's your leadership team. And I think I talk about this in a future slide, but I'm going to steal some of my thunder, is you don't have to be the charismatic, outgoing leader. And in fact, there's some research that shows that actually backfires and doesn't last long term. because you need processes and systems will override the charisma every time. So finding the systems and the processes and the leadership team is going to be a bigger step than jumping out front and having this big vision waving your arms. All right, secret number 3, or last secret, how to sustain your vision once you've launched it. Now, this is something that we get concerned about, isn't it? That we're going to have this big meeting and we're going to get everybody together, we're going to launch it, and then it's going to fade. And we don't want that to happen. And so here's what happens. Some leaders will tell me, I've launched my vision once I get settled into my leadership seat, which makes sense, right? When day one, maybe you've got a 90-day plan, and you're going to go listen to the staff about, you should do that, right? You should do those things. But if you're still trying to settle in 3 years later, you've settled in too far, right? You need to get up, shake around a little bit, and get your vision dusted off, because it's time, right? You're not confident enough in your vision and your leadership capabilities and the systems that you have. You're not sure that if your staff's going to follow you, which again, for I think it's slide number 2, like that's legitimate, right? This is not easy work, but what I'm telling you is you can build a grassroots movement before you launch. So you don't have to just go out tomorrow and just say all these great things that are in your heart, which is, they're in there. You wouldn't be in leadership. It's too hard. But you don't want to share your heart and then have nobody follow you. That's what this process does for you, is you get some momentum before you do that, so you know that you have people following you. I talked a little bit about personality over process. I'll touch on it just quickly here, is the idea that the charismatic leader that's bringing people in and say, yeah, let's do this. I know it's hard, but let's go. And you put your inspirational quotes up on the board. And again, I love inspirational quotes, but you have to know there has to be a process and structure underneath that holding it up. That's the foundation. The foundation is not a really cool quote. That's not going to do it. The foundation is culture and structure and systems. And when you have those pieces in place, like a strong leadership team, not just you, now, if you're a charismatic leader, that's great, go for it. But you need the foundation of the systems and the processes. All right, so from my background, I've talked about that already. We've kind of seen some of that. And I would say the personality versus process that I've seen is when I first got into the classroom, I brought personality and relationship with kids. Right? That's what I did. I was the loud, funny teacher that people wanted to be with. But I also had a learner, Alex, who actually dropped out of high school first semester of his freshman year. And no, that's not his real name. But yes, that really did happen. And at the time, I didn't know it was legal. I didn't know you could do that. But he did a lot of work his 8th grade year with me because of my personality, because of that relationship. But we didn't have the process and the structures built up for him to be able to read well, to be able to interact with adults well. He interacted with me well, and he would interact with other adults his 8th grade year well, because he knew that I would, be there to talk him through how it went if it didn't, right? But when he got into high school, it was different. And he didn't have the structures and the process to be successful. And the same is true for your staff, right? They need those structures to lean on when you're not there, because you can't be in their classroom all the time. Project-based learning is a system that works in the classroom. That's what I found, that even beyond my personality, the structure of project-based learning worked for my learners. So when I made that switch, that's when we saw a whole spectrum of kids do the work and learn and grow well beyond my personality. So Design Days is the system that works for launching your PBL vision, again, without you burning out and without you losing your staff in the process. You need a system. Here's a case study. These 3 schools, actually, that we came in and we trained them. We gave them Design Days as startup schools. So if you're starting up, this should definitely be a part of your process. You need a 3-year plan. Yes, you have to pick the tile. Yes, you need to hire. Yes, you need to get kids in the door. But you need a 3-year plan that you're going to plug them into, because it's going to get hard. And with these 3 schools, we've taken them through Design Days, which is before you launch your vision, to help you get grassroots movement before you start. Year 2 is deeper practice, where you're going to look at the bright spots and areas of growth. Year 3 is sustainable structures. How do you do this work beyond time where Magnify Learning is training all of your people? Because it's not sustainable for you to work with any kind of an outside organization like Magnify Learning, for instance, where you're paying for services for 20 years. It just doesn't work that way. So you need somebody that can come in for 3 years. You invest in those 3 years, but you've got sustainable structures that live beyond that time. And that's what we've done with these 3 schools. And it's super exciting work. So some people are going to think, I don't know how to maintain a vision. I don't know how to create a culture of reflection and growth. I don't know how to bring PBL to my school. Well, the good news is that there are a lot of other leaders in your position. So again, as long as you believe that we can reach and teach all the learners in your school, then you can do this. This is the process that we take fired up leaders that want to get after it, that have a vision, that things can be different. This is what we take you through, right? You've gotten this far on passion and excitement and just probably some sheer grit, right, to make things happen. But you can't do that forever. You need systems, you need processes. That's what we're doing. That's how you really maintain the vision, right? Which is what this secret's all about, is how do you sustain the vision? It's one thing to launch it and get people excited about. How do you sustain it? It has to be systems and processes. It has to be a 3-year plan. There's just no way that you can sustain the sheer amount of energy that you're expending every day. You can't do that for the next 10, 15 years. And we want you to do that. And I'll tell you why. It's just like compounding interest. Like you've got a 403B or a 401k, and you're putting money into that every paycheck because you know that come 30 years from now, 40 years from now, you're going to get that compounding interest that just hockey sticks up. It's the same thing with the wisdom and knowledge that you have. The longer you're in this position, the more wisdom and knowledge you have, and it starts to compound, right? You've had enough difficult conversations, right? You've let people go. You've talked to kids and parents, and all that starts to build. So the more you can be in this position, living this vision, the more compounding interest you have, if you will, on your wisdom and experience. And that's when things get really exciting as a leader. So here's the truth out of all that, is that Design Days is the process that helps you create a culture of engaged learning that perpetuates more innovation. Because you want a culture where your teachers are thinking, well, hey, what if we move to standards-based grading? And it's not just you saying, hey, here's the new thing each time. Because we said, like, we know teachers get tired of that. But what if your teachers are pushing that? That's a whole different ballgame. So we provide the coaching for the teacher, for your coach, and for you as the administrative leader. And we do that. The coaches that have done this have done the work before. So they've been in your shoes. They've had the same areas of growth, the same problems. They've had the same bright spots, and they know how to guide you through that. So that's our 3 secrets. So here's what we've covered. Secret number 1, how to find the leadership that you need to help launch your vision. First, we got to find it. Number 2, how to get your leadership on the same page. You need a 3-year plan. You need a process of going to visit a school. You need a process of saying, this is what we should take from that school and bring to our school. Number 3 is how do you sustain that vision once it's launched? And now you have to have the systems and processes. That 3-year strategic plan is a big deal, a big part of that. But there's also just a switch in mindset that you have to go beyond passion and grit and perseverance and move towards systems and structures as a leader. So here's the Design Day package of trainings and coachings that we have for you as somebody who's on the webinar or possibly watching the replay. Here's what we're going to put together for these Design Days if you want us to come in and help you run this. You can run those 3 secrets. You can do it on your own. That's why we gave them to you. We want as many people to go through this process as we can. But if you want us to run it, where one of our facilitators takes you through this process and we coach you throughout the coming years, then this is the package we've created just for you. So it's all about helping you launch your vision, to bring project-based learning to your school, to start a movement without you burning out and without losing your staff. Key pieces. So here's what you get in this package. You're gonna get Design Days. You've heard me talk about these. The 2 Design Days are with your leadership team, and we'll talk to you before that to kind of set up your vision and let you know how we're gonna set it up, give you the agenda. It's on location. Again, the option I love the most is where you're at one of our model schools. So you get to go in and see PBL in action. You get to talk to the administrator, the teachers, the learners, and then you come back to like a home base for your team and you build out your 3-year plan of how that works. And you go back into classrooms. You get to go back and forth for these 2 days and ask good questions and go see different things. So then you're going to build your customized plan, and then we're going to coach you through the implementation, right? Creating a vision is one thing, implementing it's another. You want to have coaches that are there with you. So here's just a couple more schools. I put them on here because they're a little different. On the left, you got Perry Township, which is the 5th largest district in Indiana. G2S is a smaller charter school, and Southside Elementary is probably a larger elementary school. So it works in all different types of environments. Again, big district, small district, wherever you're at, this works. So who does this work for? It works for leaderships. If you can build a leadership team, like in step 1, in secret number 1, if you could think of, 5 to 6 to 10 people that could join you in a leadership team, this can work for you. If you're ready to serve learners, if you believe that you can reach and teach all of your learners and not just some of them, this is for you. If you can commit to a 3-year plan, like we're going to write out a 3-year plan, and then the next year in deeper practice, you're going to extend it again, right? New 3-year plan, right? And sustainability is new 3-year plan. You keep walking that out. So because you know that sustainability, that the structures are important to keeping that vision going. If you believe that, if you believe in systems and culture, if you believe that we need to solve root cause problems and not just put a Band-Aid over things and skill and drill some things, then this is for you. Like, this works. We see it work again and again. If you are a leader that is innovative and wants to make big change, this works. Here's why some people don't get started. I've talked to them. You might be thinking you can't get started because you don't have an established leadership team. Well, the good news, the great news is that you just need a staff that's willing to walk with you. If they're willing to build the culture, if they buy into your leadership, if they buy into you as a leader, then we can help with the rest of that process. Because what happens is that you're building this, you get to be a part of the process, not just the driver of it. And it puts you in a very different position. Now you get to be a part of the we, right? Instead of just speaking into, this is where we're going to go. And it makes a big difference. So we help with that process. So when you look at this process, it's $19,990. And in this package that we're giving you in the webinar, you're going to get leadership virtual coaching. You're going to get leadership team coaching. So you get coaching as the administrator, and then your team also gets coaching. Some people combine those. Some people do them separately. You get both because you want to be coached as a leader of like, well, how do I work into this leadership team? Right? And that some of those conversations don't fit your leadership team. So you really want both of these. So we put them both in this package. So with this coaching, you're going to be able to implement the plan that you create during your design days, your 2 days together. You're going to collaborate and problem solve with a coach who's done the work. And you're going to plan and create the systems with your leadership coach who's seen this work at a high level. So we've seen what works, and we're going to help you create a plan that works for you. So what do you get to get rid of, right? Because you don't want to just keep adding things. You're going to get rid of the false starts. I'm sure you've had district mandates that have come in and didn't work. And then a couple of years and you push that to the side, you try something different. We're done with that because this is going to be the structure that all of your other initiatives fit into. You're also going to get rid of that anxiety around the launch. And if you don't have it, you should when you're going to go launch. But we actually walk you through, like, what's the very first faculty agenda going to be when you say project-based learning, right? So I've actually walked through this with principals. What video are you going to show? What protocol are you going to do? Where are you going to give people space? How can they get back to you? Where do they list need to knows? All these different ideas so that when you go to launch, you know that it's a proven process. Problems that are solved, you can have your vision launched with the buy-in of your staff instead of not having them and having to pull them through. What if your staff was on board with a 3-year project-based learning plan? What would that mean? Like, what if schools and business leaders were telling positive stories about your school? What if you had noteworthy stories? Like, what if you were on your local TV station or you're in the paper? And all the while, you're raising your standardized tests. You don't need a whole new curriculum. You're not chasing different initiatives because you have systems and structures, and you're not just pulling your staff along. You're saving a ton of time. All that weekend time that you're working, we can wipe that out as we're coaching you through this process. This is how you get to those places where you see those principals that have the time to think deeply and do deep work. This is how you get it. It's with these systems. Now, you might be thinking it's not going to work for you because you don't have a PBL vision yet. But if you spell out your vision of what you want your learners to be learning, like what's that ideal graduate look like, or the portrait of a graduate, this is how you get there. When you want empowered learners instead of passive, this is that process. And again, during the design days, that's what we're helping you build out. You're bringing some vision. Your team is to co-create it. So here's what you're going to get. The design days, those 2 days on site of a model school during school hours. You're going to get an admin coaching. You're going to get leadership team coaching. All packaged in here. We're also going to start training your staff on your leadership team. And those teacher leaders that you have, you can get your leadership team trained in PBL before the rest of your staff. Remember, you want to start building those local success stories. So those, you can have your design days, this semester, and then over the summer, they can be doing these virtual project-based learning workshops. So now they're a part of this vision, and you're working to build a PBL unit. They're building out their PBL unit, and they're actually going to implement come first semester. And now you're really starting to build your local success stories. So you might be thinking that you can't use these. And here's why. Maybe you're stuck in that, well, my staff doesn't know about PBL. Well, they should be there. They should go on PBL Jumpstart. Or maybe you're in a spot where my staff has PBL training. Like, what do I do now, Ryan? Well, we also have PBL Advanced to take them farther, right? So they can be those leaders. Eventually, they can get certified and they can be your trainers. And now you have not only local success stories, but you have local trainers that are training your new hires. Now, that's super strong. So we're going to give you these virtual PBL workshops. We're going to give you 10 seats. It's about $8,000 typically. If you do outside of this, that's exactly what it costs. And you're also going to get the online community. Now, the online community is how you connect with PBL educators from around the country. It's how you get all kinds of asynchronous resources. It's how your teachers and your leadership team go, well, what about this? Does anybody have a resource on group contracts? Yep, here we go. Anybody have a book suggestion? Yep, here you go. You can ask real-time questions. And we hear this from teachers all the time, which is why we created the online community, is it's in between coaching sessions, but I have a question. What do I do? One, you can always email or text your coach, but you can also go to the online community. Because for whatever reason, teachers won't do that. They won't, well, we don't want to bother your coach. And we're like, that's why we're here. But the online community connects you with other PBL educators from around the country, and your teachers go, oh, there's other people doing this work too. And it's such a big deal. It's going to make it faster and easier for your team to create engaging PBL experiences because you've got on-demand courses, you've got resources. You don't have to recreate every group contract. We have those. You don't have to recreate every rubric. We have those, right? You've got all these resources. And again, you might not think you need it because either you haven't been doing PBL or you have been doing PBL, but everything's graduated. It's all differentiated, right? It's just part of our value systems that we differentiate training for everybody. So same thing in the online community. So your people have a place. So again, there's a cost for that, $663. We're going to give you 10 of those licenses as well. And you're also going to get the PBL Simplified Book Study. So you walk through the book study with your leadership group. We're going to send you a copy for each one of the people in your leadership team. You walk through the book study, and it's going to make it faster and easier for your leadership team to see where you're taking them. They can start to have questions. You don't have to believe everything in here, although it's based on a decade of working with schools. It makes a lot of sense. There's stories in here, and you can say, well, this happened to me, and your teachers can relate to those types of things, and you can talk about where you want to go. So we're going to add all that in. Now, obviously, as you add up that stack of resources that you get, I'm not going to charge you $54,069. But if I did charge you $54,000 and all it did was show you exactly how to launch your vision, would it be worth it? Like, what if you actually launched your 3-year vision and you knew where you were going to be in 3 years instead of just day-to-day fire, putting out fire, 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 fire? What if you could launch your vision in your current school and then you could live in that before you go on to your next assignment? Would that be worth the $54,000? Put those ESSER, those title dollars to this work. Wouldn't that be worth it? As a leader, it's a game changer. If all the Design Days package did was help you launch your vision without burning out, and you knew that you weren't going to lose your staff, would that be worth $54,000? If all it did was show you how to implement the system at your school without being a PBL guru, you don't have to be a PBL guru. What if we could help you with that process? Would that be worth the cost? What if it helped your team create a system that lives beyond individual teachers, that lives beyond individual coaches or APs? What if we could help you build that system that you knew was going to bring your students to be empowered? Would that cost make sense? Because we had the option. We can make it cheap or we can make it valuable. We can make it a software all asynchronous where you just go out and do it on your own, or we could take you to a school, be in there with you in the trenches, coach you through the processes. Well, obviously we decided to make it more valuable than cheap. That's how we've always done it. We've always done it where it's 3 years of investment, and then beyond that, you have sustainable systems and structures that you can go and bring forward because you have an innovative culture that builds on itself. We're still always there to consult with you, to coach with you if you need it, But after the 3-year investment, you're moving on your own. Your vision is being implemented. So what if you could launch that? Like, what would it be worth to you? How about if those students you normally don't reach were suddenly engaged in school? You've got a group that's really hard, and you're trying to do it with a relationship, but what if you could do it with a system? You get started right now, and you can start walking down that path. And it says right here, we only have 10 spots for design days this semester. It's actually less than that. I think it's actually 6 now. We actually had 11 to start with because we only take so many relationships. We're a boutique organization. We're not a commodity. We work with leaders that want to do this work deeply. They want it to be sustainable and effective. That's who we work with. We don't work with everybody. Like it says on here, some people are going to ask for these in May, and we're going to say no. But we do still have spots left. We still have 6 spots left as at the beginning of this webinar. So you can still jump in, and you've got 2 choices. The real question is, because the 2 choices are, you can continue to to wait on your vision for the perfect time, or you can jump in and you can see if you can bring your vision to life. So the real question is, is it worth allocating some funds to this? Is it worth investing on the front end so that 4+ years after the investment, you still have sustainable structures and it's not built on personality? That your vision is implemented. Don't you see what your vision would look like implemented with a grassroots movement? That's what this does. It ensures the grassroots movement. It's not going to flop. It's not going to fade out. So here's all the different things you get. You get design days, 2 days at a model school. We're going to walk you through. You're going to have a 3-year plan when you leave, and you're going to have momentum with your staff. You're going to have coaching for you as the administrator, coaching for your leadership team, and we're going to give you virtual workshop seats. And you're going to be in the online community, and we're going to give you a PBL book study to start. All that would be $54,000. You're going to get it all just for the cost of the design days. $19,990. And again, I apologize, the slide's a little bit outdated because we've actually got 6 spots left now at this point. But if you're watching this webinar live, you can jump into it right now. If you're watching the replay, you can set a time up with me so we can talk, we can have a discussion, see what it looks like for your school. All of this is completely customized. All of it's completely customized. When you go to that model school and you build out your 3-year plan, that's what we coach you through. We don't coach you through the plan for Southside or Perry or Babcock, these other partners that we have, our model schools. You're going to go look at them and say, well, what works for you? That's the key to all of this. So you can get started right now with this design day package that's exclusively if you've gone through this webinar and you've seen this process. You can reach out. So if you go to pbldesigndays.com, you can get some more information that you can share with your team and then set up a time and we'll talk and get you on the schedule. You can be one of those 6 spots that we have left to start your PBL movement today.